Now the other fight that is unfolding here is about the state of Hamas's arms going forward. And there's some indications from Hamas actually that they're now offering to give up heavy weapons, which would be, rockets, which is actually a huge victory especially for the people that live around the envelope, but also, those rockets went pretty far. It also is a signal that they're backing off of offensive strikes, into Israel as a part of this. They say they want to keep their small arms, and small arms are not a threat to an Israeli or to Israel unless they're inside Gaza. Right? You're not a guy with a gun in Deir al-Balah is not a threat to somebody in Tel Aviv unless that person from Tel Aviv gets in a tank and comes into Deir al-Balah. Then they're in trouble. So let's roll President Trump talking about this question of Hamas disarmament.
We have told them we want to disarm, and they will disarm. And if they don't disarm, we will disarm them. And it'll happen quickly and perhaps violently. But they will disarm. Do you understand me?
Yes, you say
because
quickly.
Everyone says, oh, well, they won't disarm. They will disarm. And I spoke to Hamas, and I said, you're going to disarm, right? Yes, sir, we're going to disarm. That's what they told me. They will disarm, or we will disarm them. Got it? Okay.
What is the deadline you're going to put on that? You say quickly, sir. Sir, you said quickly, but what is the deadline you're going to put on that before you take action?
A reasonable period of time. Pretty quickly. A reasonable period of time.
A reasonable period of time.
Yeah. But a reporter later followed up and was like, hold on a second, sir. I think you just said that you spoke to Hamas. That would be huge news if true. Yeah. He's like, well, I didn't speak to Hamas. He's like, a very senior Hamas person spoke to somebody senior in our administration.
AKA Steve Witkoff.
Right. Yeah. And this is what they relayed. Now the question of arms also goes to law and order in Gaza. And unless you have any thoughts on that, we could roll him talking about the gangs.
Well, just to set it up, it is an interesting question now about the post-governance of Gaza, because the United States has committed to some sort of coalitional provisional authority which will govern. Hamas will have to give up its weapons, but it'll be allowed to enter the political process. But in the interim, because it is not under occupation, who is administering day-to-day justice, if you will? And immediately what's been coming out from the Gaza Strip are images actually of Hamas, or at least Hamas militants, committing executions. And those executions, there's been a lot that's been thrown about. Some pro-Israelis have been saying that, oh, actually, this is Hamas executing, quote unquote, collaborators. Hamas is like, no, these are criminals, people who were hoarding food, who were stealing and were looting in the middle of this. And Trump, it appears, actually is endorsing these executions, saying, yeah, he's like, they're taking care of some troublemakers. I don't have a problem with it, to be honest with you. Let's take a listen.
They did take out a couple of gangs that were very bad, very, very bad gangs, and they did take them out, and they killed a number of gang members. And that didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. That's okay. It's a couple of very bad gangs. It's no different than other countries.
Didn't bother me much, to be honest with you. So what do we know about these guys, Ryan? Yeah. Because the pro-Israel side is adamantly saying, this is Hamas who is executing people who collaborated with the IDF. This shows their barbarism, etc. The president of the United States seems to believe that it is criminal gangs. Perhaps that's backed up by intelligence, but it does highlight kind of the issue of who is going to administer like day-to-day law and order inside of the Gaza Strip, in particular because the Israelis never wanted to do it. And now that they're gone and it's no longer like an anarchist war zone, something is going to fill in and step up that vacuum.
Yeah, and so the Ministry of Interior yesterday put out a statement that was kind of putting on record what had been circulating inside of Gaza, which is that, look, the statement says, look, if you participated with these gangs, either Israeli-backed or otherwise, that were looting aid, that were causing chaos, turn yourself in, and we have a week-long period of amnesty. They say it ends October 19th. And it's time to reintegrate into Palestinian society. Now, when you get, are you going to get a little slap on the wrist? They're going to shoot your leg? Like, I don't know what this kind of amnesty actually means, and this will require some new reporting. It might just mean you come in, you say who you are, who your family is, you say what you did, and you promise you're not going to do it again. And it's a process of truth and reconciliation moving forward. They said if you committed bloodshed, if you killed someone, you're not eligible for this. You have to submit yourself to real justice. So what they say with the folks there, that they were offered amnesty, some of them refused, and there was then a gun battle. They lost the gun battle, and then they were executed there. Now here's what's wild, and here's an interview you wouldn't see on any American television program. I'm going to read some of this to you and get
Please.
your reaction to it, because I think, as you'll see, Hamas actually, I think, has a lot more similarities with probably the American right. I think you're going to hear some of this and be like, yeah, okay, this kind of tracks with my political philosophy. A little more than a squishy liberal like me who is like, what about due process? What about confronting your accuser? So this is an interview on a Saudi television program, which is hostile to Hamas. Like the Saudis, they wish Hamas did not exist. And so they invited on from Nusayrat a guy named Sheikh Husni al-Mughni, who is, his official title, he's the head of the Supreme Committee for Palestinian Tribal Affairs, but he's understood in Gaza to be a strong representative of civil society. Like he's one of these guys that's just very well respected around the kind of Gaza civil community. So the interviewer, and you can find this clip, it's in Arabic though, but it's on DropSite. Well, I'll read some of it here. The interviewer is constantly pressing him to try to condemn Hamas and condemn, because like they're executing people in cold blood, like in public on video. And
Saudis famously are very against it.
Yeah, Saudis.
Yeah,
boy.
yeah.
I didn't even think of that, but that's hilarious. And so he starts out by saying this: these events didn't come out of thin air or from rumors. They're based on facts. This misguided group collaborated with the enemy and committed shameful acts: murder, theft, looting. These people have existed since the first truce. They've been doing this for a long time. During that period, they killed many people, robbed and terrorized others. No one could tolerate what they did. Now, after the situation has stabilized and the ceasefire has taken hold, the security forces are working to restore safety and stability among the people. This deviant group, which practiced all forms of violence and looting, had to be held accountable. The families of those involved renounced them under tribal law and asked them to surrender to the authorities. Those who turned themselves in were punished according to their crimes. Those who resisted arrest, the police had to use force against them, leading to deaths and injuries. These people are rejected by everyone, by the public and by the tribes. The host says, but should it be handled this way? Less than 24 hours after the ceasefire in Gaza, they've executed publicly without any legal process or accountability. And he says, my sister, please understand, there are no functioning courts, no police, no judiciary right now. What exists is field justice. Tell me, when a 10-year-old boy goes out to bring home a little flour for his siblings because his father was martyred, and someone attacks him, steals the flour, and kills him in the street, who will hold those killers accountable? These people have to be rooted out. They're a corrupt element that doesn't belong to our society. And the host says, she's still looking for something. She's like, give me something here. She's like, but surely you've also heard of excesses by Hamas members themselves. Al-Mughni says, if there are violations by Hamas members, there are authorities who can stop and punish them. But who holds Hamas accountable, she asks. Anyone can report misconduct to the higher authorities. They will investigate and punish. Hamas has leadership and internal accountability. Yesterday, for instance, a journalist was stopped at a checkpoint and shot in the leg. Those who did that will be held accountable as well. And then she says, were the tribal leaders informed or consulted before Hamas carried out these executions? Al-Mughni says, we stand with them completely, heart and soul. We support and back every measure they've taken. If you knew the extent of the corruption these people spread, you wouldn't believe it. Then she says, but how did Hamas determine so quickly who was guilty of collaboration or treason? And he says, because these were the very people stealing and looting the aid trucks, robbing everything that was meant for the people. For 6 months, not a single aid package reached ordinary citizens because of them. They stole and resold the food. They are killers, criminals, thieves, and they had to be punished for what they did to their own people. And then last one, and then we can, because you get the point. She says, still, there are fears this could damage social cohesion after 2 years of war and bombardment. Al-Mughni says, no, those carrying out these acts of violence are Israel's agents, people created and supported by Israel. The Hamas police gave them chances, 1, 2, 3, to surrender. Those who refused and kept spreading chaos had to be punished. The people themselves demanded it. It goes on from there with her continuing to press him, like, come on, this looks terrible. This can't be how we're going to do this. And him saying, no, it had to be done. Towards the end of it, he's like, no, we would have preferred a little bit more, actually. He's like, he's like, this was the moderate approach to these guys.